This is James Hendricks with the Black Sheep Reports. Today I'm going to be talking about how ISIS is a creation of Israel and the United States. This is as clear as the sky is blue, or the color black and white on the ISIS flag. This is a clear fact. ISIS, ISIL, IS, or whatever the hell they want to call them, the group has been deliberately engineered by the US and Israel to achieve a certain geopolitical goal. They are a religious, fundamentalist, Sunni terrorist organization created to terrorize and overthrow certain secular and Shiite Arab nations, such as Syria and Iraq. But they are not just Islamic. They may be Muslim and they may be advocating an Islamic State, but they are very much working towards the goals of Zionism. It's amazing how many people still struggle to get that point. We've been indoctrinated with propaganda surrounding the war on terror, notably terms such as Islamic terrorism or radical Islam, but more accurate phrases would be Zio-Islamic terrorism or radical Zio-Islam. Secret military agencies such as the CIA or the Mossad pull the strings here. Here is a list of 10 proofs that the ISIS is a US and Israel creation. Starting off with number 1, ISIS is an acronym for Mossad. Now let's begin with the obvious here. ISIS itself is an acronym, not just for Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, but for Israel's Secret Intelligence Service. This is another way to describe the Mossad, the shady Zionist spy agency whose motive is by way of deception. Thou shalt do war. In this video that I'm about to show you are the two authors being interviewed, that they admit that the acronym ISIS equals Mossad. The author is being interviewed who proves that ISIS is an acronym for Israel's Secret Intelligence Service. Let's take a look.
Community. Yet the most famous.
This is the video that every internet page shill working for the JIDF hates the most. During a mind-blowing interview for the channel C-SPAN in the early 90s, journalist and Israeli intelligence insider Dan Raviv, co-author of the book, Every Spy a Prince, about the origins of Israeli spy agencies, reveals the actual acronym used by Mossad amid the Western intelligence community. 4 initials that leave zero room for doubts about who created the counterfeit terrorist group known as ISIS.
You tell the story about how you tried to find out what they call the Mossad when they deal with publicly?
I thought it was a reasonable question, but the trouble is you can't pick up the phone book. There's no Langley in Israel that you can look up, CIA, or in our case, the Mossad. We thought we should ask, what shall we call it in English? You can translate the Hebrew words, as I said, Mossad is institute, but when they write a letter to their friends in the CIA or the British intelligence, what do they call themselves? It took a while. It was a matter of asking the Prime Minister's spokesman. The best you could do, because officially the Mossad is under the Prime Minister's office. And I think he sort of wondered why you want to know and all that, so we explained. And he came up with the Israeli Secret Intelligence Service. I mean, if it were to have initials, it would be ISIS. Just simple words like that.
Israeli Secret Intelligence Service. And if it were to have initials, it would be ISIS. Just simple words like that.
ISIS foreknowledge via leaked DIA documents. Now, the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, is one of 16 military intelligence agencies. According to a leaked document obtained by Judicial Watch, the DIA wrote on August 12, 2012, that there's a possibility of establishing a declared or undeclared principality in eastern Syria, and that this is exactly what was supporting powers to an opposition want in order to isolate the Syrian regime. This is written before ISIS came on the world stage. Clearly, ISIS was no random upspring, but rather a carefully groomed and orchestrated, controlled opposition group. The supporting power to the opposition, referred to Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and the GCC nations, such as Qatar, who are in turn being supported by the US, UK, and Israel Axis, and their struggle to overthrow the Syrian president Bashar al-Assad. As I outlined plenty of times in my videos, the Syrian ground war is about to begin. World War III inches closer, and the US is backing the Sunni nations rather than Russia, China, Iran are backing the Shia nations. So there is a definite potential for this to erupt into World War III. Backing the Sunni nations while Russia, China, and Iran are backing the Shia nations here. Now, number 3. ISIS, they never attack Israel. It is more than highly strange and suspicious that ISIS never attacks Israel. It is another indication that ISIS is controlled by Israel. If ISIS was a genuine and independent uprising that was covertly orchestrated by the US and Israel, why would they not try to attack a Zionist regime, which has attacked almost all of its Muslim neighbors ever since 1948? Now, Israel has attacked Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, and of course, Palestine. Now, it has systematically tried to divide and conquer its Arab nations. It continually complains of the Islamic terrorism. Yet, when ISIS comes on the scene as the bloody, barbaric king of the Islamic terrorism, it finds no fault with Israel and sees no reason to target a regime which has massive injustice against Muslims. This stretches credibility to a snapping point. ISIS and Israel don't attack each other. They help each other. Israel was treating ISIS soldiers and other anti-Assad rebels in its hospitals. Mortal enemies? Or are they just best friends? Number 3, Toyota trucks. Where did ISIS get an entire fleet of matching Toyota pickup trucks? Why do so many of its photo shots feature a fleet of matching Toyotas, matching in both models and color? Now, this was shown on New York Times and a bunch of newspapers. Now, the official story is ISIS stole them from the good terrorists, al-Nusra, who were originally given their color wheels by, you guessed it, the US government, which would seem to give us a couple of questions. Not least of which, why are the US giving these terrorists matching fleets of luxury SUVs? And for that matter, how many fleets are we even talking about? So exactly how many trucks did the US supply? Where are the ISIS currently garaging that impressive collection? And why do they all have to be Toyotas? Is it a terrorist thing, or is it simply a US government preference? Do Toyota mind the brand association, or the fact that so many of ISIS drive-by photo ops look like car ads? Some of these trucks were actually used vehicles that got sent from the US and Canada over to Syria. Number 4, ISIS first-class social media skills. Now, the issue of the Toyota leads us to the next question about ISIS. Who's handling their publicity? How have they managed to get so many photos of Toyota truck drive-bys? How have they managed to master Western social media so well to spread their message, propaganda, and threats? How have they managed to produce slick videos like fake beheadings? How does a barbaric group of killers who speak a language very different to English have a religious ideology as Sharia law and often criticize all these Western things, manage to develop such an excellent social media skills? Number 6, Israel's group site was the first to release ISIS footage. Another key giveaway that ISIS is a U.S. Israeli creation is that Israel group site which is search for the international terrorist entities, are often the first to find and publicize released videos. As their co-founder let slip on occasions, site was involved in the slew of fake green screen ISIS beheadings videos of 2014. Speaking of fake beheadings, why did this fictional Turkish TV drama show a beheading just like that of ISIS? Number 7, ISIS leader Baghdadi is a Mossad agent. Although this is very hard to confirm, there were reports apparently alleging or going from Edward Snowden that the leader ISIS al-Baghdadi was actually an Israeli Mossad agent by the name of Simon Elliott. Now, Simon Elliott, aka al-Baghdadi, was born of 2 Jewish parents and is a Mossad agent. We offer below in the links, I'll show you the leaks that Edward Snowden put out. Al-Baghdadi, he said, is basically a full Mossad agent, that he was, like I said, born of a Jewish mother and father. The real name al-Baghdadi is Simon Elliott. The so-called Elliott was recruited by Israeli Mossad and was trained in espionage and psychological warfare against Arabs and Islamic societies. This information was attributed to Edward Snowden. Number 8, leaked cables showing U.S. plotting Syrian overthrow. Julian Assange of WikiLeaks did a great job in capturing information about what was happening in Syria years before the Arab Spring and current war that was started in 2011. He reveals how William Roebuck, then a U.S. ambassador at the time in Damascus, was plotting to overthrow the Syrian government. The following quote from Roebuck cable to Washington shows how he was outlining the vulnerabilities of Assad. Number 9, Russian bombs ISIS while U.S. protects ISIS. Before Russia's military entered Syria, the U.S. claims it was attacking ISIS, yet Russia was able to do it in a few months. What was the U.S. has been unable to do for years? And it leaves the question, why? In the U.S. military, are we that incompetent? Or this is further proof that the U.S. has been funding and supporting ISIS this whole time. At one point, there were even reports that the U.S. soldiers were told not to fire on ISIS targets, even if they were clear view of them, as this was reported in the Free Beacon. And the report says U.S. military pilots who had returned from the fight against the Islamic State in Iraq are confirmed that they were blocked from dropping 75% of their ordnance on the terror targets because they could not get a clearance to launch a strike, according to the leading member of Congress. Why did the U.S. State Department spokesman Mark Toner struggle to celebrate the fact that ISIS had lost recently in Syria? Last but not least, number 10, ISIS is always the excuse for further intervention. Finally, consider this. Why is ISIS always the perfect excuse for further military intervention in Syria? Given the history of foreign meddling in Syria, particularly by the US and Israel in the last 70 years, isn't it rather convenient that the specter of ISIS is just the justification for the no-fly zone, airstrikes, and ground troops? How would the US and Israel conquer the Middle East without the pet Frankenstein ISIS? Share this video with those who haven't yet awoken to the truth about ISIS. Many have already seen this through propaganda. Once enough of this, due to the usefulness of this ridiculous, dangerous terrorist group will expire. And maybe a critical mass of people will pull back the curtains and for once get a glimpse of who the true puppet masters are. This is James Hendricks with The Black Sheep Report. Subscribe if you're new. The links are below. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook. Our page is Media on 9/11. Thank you.